Okay. Hi, everyone. So before we jump into any charts, I just want to say hello to everyone who's here. I'm just looking at everyone's name. It's good to be with you all again. Some of you for the first time. Hey, Wendy.
Hi there.
All right. So we're working with Cameron. Is this Cameron speaking right now?
No, that wasn't Cameron.
It was Chuck. I'm sorry. I'm butt out again.
Hi, Chuck.
Hi.
Oh, so which chart are we're starting in alphabetical order. Are we starting with Angela? Is that what's happening?
Angela's not here, so we'll just go to Cameron's
chart. So Cameron.
Keep going, Wanda.
All right, so Cameron, the way that we're going to do this is I'm just going to invite you to speak to me about whatever you want to talk about, whatever you want to explore, hear about. And the way that I roll is I really like to listen and connect with you before I even look at the chart. So I'm just going to be focusing on you, and I guess the chart's up right now, so we can all look at that too for those who wish to do that first. So go for it. Tell me what's up.
I don't know. It's so much. But yeah, so I started working with Evolutionary Astrology like a year and a half ago or so, but I first started learning about astrology only through plants. So I would work with the seasons and stuff like that. And yeah, just learning like the plant-planet relationships and how it correlates to the organ systems and just seeing patterns in life and alchemy and stuff like that. So yeah, mostly the questions that I did have pertaining to my chart had to do with like planetary nodes, because my understanding of my chart seems pretty elaborate for someone who hasn't really studied astrology that long, but it's direct experience for me. It's like all direct experience. Even like to the point where one day I was driving on the interstate, and like I felt the symbols of the planets, you know, kind of, I guess people call them downloads, come through me, and I could understand what they are, but I couldn't always explain it fully, which I'm still kind of in that phase. But I have a pretty good understanding of what they are and what they feel like within me. But the planetary nodes, that's something that I haven't expanded on in a very technical way. So I was going to ask some questions about that.
Great. I could adjust that, but I also want to speak a little bit to just your own chart relative to what you're just speaking of. You spoke about how there's just a direct grasping of astrology, and what you expressed about the download. I'm looking at your sun on the North Node in Aquarius in the second house, and that's very, very strong for a cellular embodied connection and oneness with the cosmos. And you can think of the second house as what we're internalizing, our resources, what's deep within us. And then astrology is Aquarius. Astrology is, you know, the stars, the larger system of life itself. So there's, with the sun on the North Node, anything on the North Node indicates something that's already been developed prior to this lifetime. So with the sun on the North Node in Aquarius, we can say you've already deeply internalized and developed yourself in terms of your objective consciousness. You have grown very deeply in the capacity to see as an observer without the interference of a subjective perspective that fixates on the detail. There's just a larger objective knowing. And you also mentioned you don't necessarily have the ability to articulate it. And that's because in this lifetime, your local mercurial mind, which corresponds to literally how we learn language, communicate, put pieces of information together, all that kind of stuff, that hasn't caught up. Aquarius and Uranus is about the individuality of the soul, and it represents and contains within that archetype total memory of everything we've ever done, experienced, learned, tasted, smelled, felt. It's 360 degrees. It's beyond just what we're picking up and classifying with the mind. That's Mercury. It's the total full spectrum experience of the soul's journey. And it doesn't go away. It's contained within the soul. The articulation of it, the communication of it, that's something that develops anew in each lifetime. So we have, in fact, Mercury is in Capricorn, conjunct Saturn, This is very clear about your soul's wanting to really develop the language and the vocabulary and the articulation. There's a purpose for you in this lifetime. It's all conjunct your Uranus, which is the ruler of your North Node. So there's a very strong sense of you moving forward, you carrying forth knowledge and higher understanding in this life. What you speak about the nodes, since I don't have those nodes up here, I'm not going to speak too elaborately about the personal planets.
That's the thing about it. The south node of my Mercury and the south node of my Venus are conjunct my Saturn and my Mercury. And
where's your okay?
And
that's great.
The south node of Pluto. So it's it's pretty profound. It feels like.
Where's the north node of your Mercury? And I'll explain for everyone what this means after we establish this.
The north node of my Mercury is conjunct Fomalhaut, so it's like 3 degrees Pisces.
Okay, great, on your Vesta. So for everyone to have a general sense, if you don't already know, every planet has a north node and a south node. The south node of a planet represents the overarching conditioning of that planet. It's what's developed in the past that provides an overall context and background for that planetary function. The north node is an evolving context for it. Just like the moon in our chart represents our self-image, our ego structure, how we emotionally integrate and process information. In the same way, the south node of the moon is the overall context of that ego structure. It's how we've known ourselves in the past. And the north node of the moon is what we're developing in terms of self-knowledge, self-awareness, who we're becoming, expanding our notion of self. So all the planets have that relationship with their own nodes. And to understand the planetary nodes, there are a couple of things to tune into. One, it's a placement by house and sign. So you have the south node of Mercury in Capricorn in the first house. Let's just look at that by itself. This will reveal what kind of information has Cameron sought out in the past. How has he learned? How has he communicated this knowledge? You understand that archetypes, first house Capricorn, independent, wanting to build something, wanting to develop strength and credentials and solid knowledge in what he knows. Perhaps he's been a trailblazer, first house, in crystallizing Capricorn knowledge in the world, building something that was created through his own moving forward in life. Then you look at what's happening with that south node of Mercury. What else is there? Well, Mercury is there. So this is a very specific kind of situation where the soul is uncovering information from the past and literally continuing in the actualization that he's already set forth in the past to actually crystallize and develop the training, discipline his mind in the ways that he's already started in the past. Now, two things are implied here. Anything on the south node, this is true with the south node of the moon in the same way it's true with the south node of any planet. It represents the past, but that's a very open statement. So there can be an indication here that, Cameron, that your training was not complete. First house often represents short endings. Then we have Saturn there, and also it's in Capricorn, Saturn energies. It's like training, going to school early, and there being something that cut off the journey, something that resulted in incompletion. In fact, the more I look at your chart, I would very much say that is in fact the case. So now I'm just going to speak intuitively, and then I'll qualify why I'm saying what I'm saying after I say it. One of the things that's happened for you is there's been really strong and something significant in terms of your own transmission, your own presence, your own belonging in humanity. It could have been persecution or excommunication, or just literally the sense of a high vibrational being trying to plant itself in the density of the physical earth plane, and something resulting in not being able to cope. And that's Pluto up there squaring the nodes, and it's squaring the south node in Leo, which is ruled by the sun on the north node. This very much represents some sort of crisis that your soul's experienced, where it was like a life and death kind of issue. Second house, eighth house. Being seen, expressing yourself equals standing out, being different, not fitting in. And there being something that resulted in, okay, I have to survive. That second house south node, which then has equaled a sense of, I can't fully connect with the individuated, full, lively expression of being alive in a physical body as my eternal self. Like there was a need for protection and dissociation. At the same time, that sun south node means you've really developed your intelligence deeply. But the full being yourself without concern for belonging, that's one of the shadow pieces for you. So that's that north node where the sun is, which rules the south node, is ruled by Uranus with Mars. It's all kinds of stuff here that indicates violence, trauma, needing to cut things off quickly. So there's a sense of you continuing on your path is very much equated to claiming and empowering yourself in your own inherent individuality, regardless of what that looks like, regardless of whether that fits in or that belongs. It's really unleashing your power, not being afraid of that, giving yourself completely to what you are. And a part of that is really returning to this path of apprenticeship, of studying, of discipline, of mastery that is very, very indigenous to your soul. So again, that Mercury South Node conjunct Mercury conjunct Saturn all in Capricorn is a path of study, is a path of training, and your soul remembers it. It's wanting to continue in that direction. One last thing I'll say is you have the South Node and North Node of Neptune on your own nodes. So Leo, Aquarius nodes are conjunct, lunar nodes are conjunct your Neptune nodes. I just happen to know that because the Neptune nodes don't move very much. That's where they are. Our teacher, Jeff Green, has taught that those nodes actually correspond to Atlantis. So you can consider as a metaphor, because I don't have the direct perception to know literally what this was like, but the symbology of Atlantis. And in this case, this can be the elitism of being smart, using your intelligence, but perhaps in ways that were hurtful or alienating or destructive or exclusive to groups of people or to the earth. Second house, Aquarius, earth, our collective community. And then that Aquarius, Capricorn first house can be like, I'm important, I'm special. There can be a karma for you around that sense of importance. And then maybe swinging to the other extreme and having guilt and not wanting to inhabit that importance as well. So do you have any questions or want to speak to any of this?
Yeah, I feel all of that, honestly. Even when you said Atlanta, you said something about apprenticeship, and I just talked to somebody that works with different types of alchemy literally 3 hours ago about becoming an apprentice. And then also the Atlantis thing. I'm having a past life regression on Saturday. And because one of my teachers said something to me about being Atlantean or something like that as well. So that resonates. And then also where my Jupiter is conjunct like the north node of Jupiter, the south node of Jupiter. And then it's like I just have so
loosely,
many things.
It's kind of, but yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think it might have been like when I was born, though.
Okay, that's right, because it moves a little quicker. Okay, so continue.
Right.
What were you saying?
Yeah, I was just saying, like, it was just interesting that all the planetary nodes were just so conjunct my chart. It was a lot, and I feel like things come through when people say things about things from the past. I'll randomly get emotional, and I just don't. It's like I just know that it's from distance, and I just have to hold space for it until it's further revealed. Because I haven't even made it to my Saturn return yet, so I'm like, just moment to moment, just like finding the truth of it all, you know?
Yeah, and you're in an exciting time right now. I mean, you can see Saturn just entered the first house, and it's going to be moving over all of your planets in the midst of your Saturn return, and it's going to be joining Pluto on your Mercury, on your Saturn. It's the next couple of years are going to be a wild ride for you.
Yeah, no. And I just started teaching too. Like I just started teaching about like the elements and herbalism, and I started teaching like just the symbols of astrology and just really honestly, with astrology, the only things I'm teaching right now is deconditioning people from how all the archetypes are distorted.
Oh,
And not
beautiful.
even going into like very technical things, because I do feel like I need more technical training. You know, I do trust myself, and I just tell people where I'm at with it, so that always works out for me. But yeah, just learning more, and I'm becoming a teacher too. And I work in a spiritual supply store, and I help people with herbs and stuff like that. So it's been nice.
Cool. Yeah, you know, and one thing about all that stuff on Capricorn is it's uncovering, you know, Mercury in Capricorn, especially the south node of Mercury in Capricorn, conjunct Saturn, can very much be sensitive to patriarchal judgments and ideas around learning and information, and it can be aware of how we've distorted knowledge, we've distorted information to reflect our own conditioning. So unraveling that, healing that, and actually claiming and grounding a new authority, a new certainty of Capricorn history, the facts, that isn't tinged by the patriarchal conditioning.
Okay, excuse me, Ari Moshe, we really need to move on. We've got 7 other people. And we're
okay.
Thank you so
All right.
much.
Thank you, Cameron.
Go ahead.
Thanks,
Go
Linda.
ahead.
I told you it might happen.
Okay, goodbye. Carolyn, go ahead.
Hi, Ari Moshe.
Hey, Carolyn.
Oh, it's good to see you.
I'm trying to find you. Where's your video? What's up?
Okay. I've been getting a lot of not yets. I thought I was going to take off this summer, whatever that meant. I've been almost a hermit for a couple of years now, and I thought that I would be more out with my healing energies and my readings and the things that I've done. And in the summer, I got an infection on my back and spent the summer going back and forth to medical clinics and finally having surgery. Got that over with, finally getting out to meditation, feeling good. Went to a wonderful family-oriented Hanukkah party and got sick. 2 days later, I got pneumonia. And I'm just recovering from it now. So I guess what I'm looking at, what I'm asking you about is, do you see any more not yets?
Okay. Okay, so here's what comes for me. To generalize it a little bit, a part of what your soul manifests is a circumstantial reality that is a reflection. Everything and everyone is slower right now, all the Capricorn. Okay, can you hear me? Is my voice coming through clearly
that's
enough?
okay. That's
okay.
Okay. That was a personal message. It wasn't for everyone. Okay.
Is that the external reality for you is reflecting your own internalized not yetness. And this is one of the core issues of your own soul journey, where there's an underlying sense of part of you, and it's a very delicate part of you that's wanting to know, is it safe now? Do I have permission? Am I ready? And underneath that, it's like, am I worthy to? Am I allowed to? And the vibrational reality of self-permission and I'll speak to the chart after I say these words. A self-permission that isn't bound by a duality of allowed to or not allowed to, yes or no, because the truth is there's only your path. And where you find certain circumstances coming up that seems to reflect, now I can't walk my path, that reflects a delusion, a confusion around what your path actually is. Because there's been a tendency for self holding back, for self-denial, there's then an investment in the idea of then doing that isn't actually real. And it's not necessarily about the doing that qualifies me walking my path. It's the relationship and understanding of who you are. And so then the manifestations, like whether or not there's sickness or there's something manifesting physically in your life, the direct experience of walking your path, like that's the energy, that's the vibe that's most important. And for you to bring dignity and honor, esteem and respect and trust in yourself, that means where you are today, it's more about a curiosity that says, what's possible now? What is my calling right now? And so much of what happens in your mind are self-created excuses that deem why not to do what you're called to do in the moment, because of the proof of external conditions that seem to say, oh, it's not time or I can't. But really, when you let go of these almost black and white ideas, there's a lot more permission and space to actually play more with your energy, to actually have more fun and curiously explore. So all I'm saying, North Node in the first house, you got the Leo stuff in the fourth square in the nodes. Venus rules that in Leo, is conjunct Saturn. Remember a little bit speaking of this last time with you, the piece here is the parent in you is holding the hand of the child in you and saying, you have permission to play. Like, you're allowed to go off on your own and have, even if you're sick, it's like, what do you want to do? But it's like, there's always something. It's never a, okay, well, I can't build a skyscraper today, because you don't have to build a skyscraper. It's the vibration itself of being in motion, being connected. And there's something else that I want to speak to, which is, this is your Mars on the South Node squaring that Venus. There's a quality for here. There's a quality here of getting in touch with almost an anger that is a manifestation of a net result of holding yourself back, of perhaps seeking permission on the outside, or denying yourself the creative, joyful, innocent impulse to play, to express. There's an anger that says, I have energy. This energy wants to express. It needs to move. So there's a quality of actually reaching in down to your core and pulling up something that's latent, that's wanting to be awakened. It's like enticing the Kundalini coil with a song, with a dance. It's courting this part of yourself that wants to, that's yearning, it's asking you to bring it out. So is what I'm saying making sense for you? Does it feel relevant for you?
It is. I'm a little foggy. I hear what you're saying. I hear about when you say anger. I've let anger come up towards people who really weren't very nice. I've done a lot of work on childhood trauma from 60 years ago that's finally become conscious. And it's like, I always blame myself for being difficult. And I chose my chart. It is what it is. And the facts of this life were what was done to me, I would never do to a child. And I won't take responsibility for that little piece as much as I take responsibility for the whole chart. Something that came to me just before you came on, I was trying to think what question I was going to ask. And I was thinking about the pneumonia. And it was like, well, I just don't know what to do. I don't want to do anything right now, so I'll just get pneumonia.
I mean, that's what came to me is like, it's the lungs, it's Uranus, it's grief. There we go.
Last year was horrendous. And I just was thinking that 2017 towards the end would be easier. And as I said, which you addressed. And I see myself doing things that put my health at risk.
Like what kind of things?
really stupid things. So I had a really bad back.
Yeah.
And I got my dog physical therapy before he died, but I wouldn't get it for myself. So anyway, I finally found this wonderful person who fixed my back. So I think, I'm going for a walk. So I stomp out the door in my Birkenstocks and I bruise my heel. So I can't walk. And they say if you don't let it heal, it won't heal. And in the meantime, so I'm not doing any aerobic exercise. So my lungs, which need aerobic exercise, particularly, aren't getting anything. And I'm lying on my couch.
See, this is all a really, really, really good reflection. Like when we manifest a physical reality where there are these overt limitations, we can really take it back into, okay, on some level, I'm wanting to limit my ability for movement. I'm wanting to inhibit my capacity for forward motion. I get your message, Linda. So we see Uranus is about to enter this next year, Uranus is going to be approaching your first house. It's moving over your ascendant. What's building right now is this oomph that I was speaking about to actually liberate yourself to act. The expressing your needs, communicating your anger, that's all really good for you. And if I could offer any kind of validation, it's you are where you need to be, because the energy and the capacity, the green light to get beyond the not yets and to actually say, yes, it is now time. It's not an external thing that's going to say yes or no. Life is pushing you into you. It's pushing you into your raw, untamed power that's been suppressed, that's been shamed and held back, that has been not allowed. So to really honor that all of this is taking you into the inside. And the biggest truth in all of this, it's you are choosing to connect with this part of yourself, to use it, to claim it, to express it. That's what I see is happening right now. And it's going to be great with Uranus moving over your first house, of course. That's going to be by necessity a time where you will have to really be claiming that. So you're preparing for that.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Carolyn. Good to see you again.
See you.
Okay, Sally. Next one, keep going. That one, yes. Sally, go ahead, unmute please and speak.
Hi, I believe that there's a problem because that's not my chart. And I don't believe you have my chart.
What's your name?
Cili, C-I-L-I.
C-I-L-I. No, I don't have your chart.
Yes.
Sorry.
Hi, Ari.
So, no question from you
Hi.
then, unless we just do a quick question without a chart. What do you think, Ari Moshe?
Let's keep it to the chart. There are enough people that want to. Yeah. Good to see you again, Cili.
You too. Okay. Bye.
Go on to Erika. Erika, please unmute and ask your question. Go ahead.
All right. So I suppose I wanted to focus on my focus and communication and security wounds, my Cancer archetype. Let's see. And is my Pluto still in the 5th house or 7th house?
In this case, it's in the 8th house, actually.
Really?
Yeah, and the Porphyry, I guess he puts it in the 8th. How's that for more Scorpio?
Huh. Okay, so that changes things.
And your nodes are 5th, 11th as well.
What?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I've been focusing on them being in 10 and 4, but okay. I still feel like I have communication and security wounds. My security comes from relationships. I don't want that to be the case, so I want to, what did I write down here? I want my security to come from myself, so I want to focus on that. I've been going to the gym, I've been doing things that, are aligned with that. And I want to, utilize my Pluto polarity point. So I want to make sure I'm doing that.
Great. So I'm going to take a moment and tune into this for you. So where I'm where I'm called to offer some insight is, how familiar are you with your Venus retrograde?
Very.
Okay. I want to speak a little bit to that. Very, very often Venus retrograde represents a situation where a soul may have overdone it in terms of finding esteem and value outside of oneself. When you put Venus in Capricorn in the 10th house with Saturn, then there's an amazing theme here that in this lifetime, you're establishing deep honor, respect, and esteem in your own authority, trusting your own power and your own authority. And Venus in Capricorn is valuing your own self, not needing to gain that value from the outside.
So I have to be alone?
So let's look into that for a moment. I'm just going to tune into the vibration of this. No. And the idea of I need to be alone corresponds to a memory of loss, abandonment, betrayal, being left alone. And thus there's an idea of, if I am really living out there and actualizing myself in the world, there's a deep grief of aloneness. There's a deep sense of not being supported. And thus in the past, there's been a lot of suppression and needing to push yourself into a world, into creating and establishing yourself in this world, all the while feeling like you can't fully just be yourself and be met completely there. Yeah, Pluto. What's that?
Yeah. Is that my Cancer, my security?
The way I'm looking at it is actually your Pluto, and Juno is right there too, squaring your nodes. So Pluto, Juno in the 8th house. The issue here would be wanting to belong, Aquarius, North Node, Uranus ruling that in Capricorn in the 9th house, and being a part of something, and then all of that Saturn in the 10th house ruling that Uranus, all that 10th house energy, being a member of the community, participating, doing good work, doing a good job, doing what you're supposed to do, being the right person, all that kind of stuff. And then people betraying you, judging you, shaming you, projecting all kinds of things about you that aren't true. And the trauma is Uranus in the 9th, you being completely misunderstood. 9th house with trauma can be, I'm misunderstood for just being authentically and naturally myself. What this has created is a jadedness and a protectiveness that basically says, I don't trust that I am safe to really be loved, met, accepted, and wanted and included fully as I am. And so that, of course, means you've suppressed being fully in your own creative center because you don't see it as safe. There's a memory of that fundamentally being unsafe for you to do that. And yet the paradox is, in not fully being in your confidence and claiming your own authority, you're not able to resonate and attract to yourself the people that can really meet you at the level of depth that you actually are. So it's not about being alone, but this is about going into your shadow. Necessary little journey for you. This is about claiming and looking at the darkness, at the anger, at the hurt, at the jadedness, at the feelings of betrayal, and underneath that, at the obsession, at the deep wanting. There's a calling to really connect with that and see what kind of permission and opening that gives you. Your power and your gift in this world is very much fertilized by the rich soil of all the darkness, all the hurt. But if you just stay there without actually toiling it, getting into it, it can just become a jadedness and a distrust and this perpetual feeling of not met. So this worked for you, and you same as you as for Cameron, this next 2 years, it's going to be a ride for you. Saturn's about to enter your 10th house, and it's going to be moving over your midheaven later in this year. And, you know, so this is a quick catch up awakening time for you of really doing your work. What kind of work do you do right now? Like, what is it you're focusing on right now in life, if you want to share?
I'm a nurse at Medical or Alina Health in Minnesota. Yeah.
Yeah.
I work in internal medicine and pediatrics. So
cool.
I feel utilized there, but yeah, my voice feels wounded. Like I don't feel like I can express myself the way I want to at times. and it upsets me.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll meet people. Like currently I'm in interaction with somebody who is triggering my skip step. Their sun, moon, and Mars are on my Pluto. And then there's a whole bunch of people who, my 9th house is conjunct their north node, and my 3rd house is conjunct their south node.
Yeah, life is going to continue to give you fertile ground. The thing about your voice, you have Mercury, Neptune, balsamic conjunction.
Yeah.
And it's also with Saturn. So there's definitely been this sense of, in this lifetime, you're learning a big lesson of self-permission and forgiveness. That you do have a message and that you have a calling to be in service to the collective. You have a lot of love and a lot of beauty, a lot of knowing and wisdom, Capricorn, authority, understanding to share. And yet that can't share if your consciousness is still defined by this need to be accepted and included from the outside. And so there's a path for, there's a practice for you in all of this.
I do find like a lot of people don't like me. I get more motivated, but like I don't want.
How so?
I don't know. Like if I feel like I'm getting a lot of negative energy towards me, I will act out further. I don't know how to explain it properly, but I don't want it to, because I don't understand why I'm receiving negative energy sometimes. Like I'll get it, and I don't know if I'm reading it wrong or what, but I don't know. I don't always feel liked or accepted, I guess.
Let me see if I can give you a little one-liner to encapsulate this. I'm feeling this for you, so I want to just tune in. Apart, because of the memory of trauma and the judgment and the persecution and the like, you are not accepted, you are not good enough, there is an inherent sensitivity to people's shadow material, to their energetics. And it isn't necessarily an indication in each case that there's that extreme, like, they don't like me. In actual truth, always, it's really just they're working through their own personal stuff. Yeah. And it's manifesting in their projections. But because of your past, you literally take it in to your liver. Like, it's like Pluto. You're taking it in, and you have to kind of process and work through it. And so this is all pushing up against a self-identity, where you are identified with ideas of belonging or not belonging, being accepted or not. You're always going to find yourself at the whim to the environment and needing to process all these things. You are learning to ground yourself in a power and a strength that isn't defensive and protective, but it's also really self-honoring and strong and solid within itself. And it doesn't mind if people want to project or judge. It's like your practice is really seeing who you are, really seeing and validating who you are, and developing a very strong, healthy, I don't give a shit. And you already have that. I can feel that in you. But it's like Pluto in 8th, standing in the midst of chaos and movement and fire and being centered. And then it's only in that place.
I always thought it was in the 7th.
Well, either way, honestly, either way, it's in Scorpio and it's Pluto. It's going to be the same energies there. So, and to be in that place of center, it's basically this idea of not being concerned with gain or loss. I'm going to do my job, follow my path. People might like it or might not like it. And when you're really in that place, you realize you can also keep your heart open, that you don't need to shut it down and be defensive to protect yourself in this big, massive world of all other kinds of people's energies.
And there's expectations, patriarchal expectations from your family, and then, I don't know.
And then you have a lot to share too. So like opening your voice and speaking and being, you're doing this. There's a lot for you to share. And speaking these things, talking about it, and your journey will be a lot about teaching and training and guiding others as well. But there's a path for you.
Like, I've heard public speaking a lot, but I couldn't public speak to save my life. I would stutter every word.
Well, let's see how that goes in time. You have a message.
Okay.
So it looks like we're gonna have to move on. Does that feel okay? Does that feel complete for you? Is that okay?
Yes, thank you. Thank you.
Okay, Erika, thank you.
Sorry, we had so many volunteers come forward. So Karen, could you please unmute and ask your question?
Yes. Hi, Ari.
Hi, Karen.
I have had a trouble kind of relating to this grand cross in my chart between Mars and Jupiter and Uranus and Chiron. And I just, I don't know if I have a question. I guess in my life I feel pretty ineffective. I try something and I can't seem to move, forward with anything. I don't really have a particular question other than just your take on this Grand Cross, because I'm having a Jupiter return and a Mars opposition, and I'm just wondering if you have any insights here.
I don't. I would need to feel a little more from you.
Oh, I don't know what to say.
All right, that's okay.
I don't know what to say.
The first thing that you spoke about is you often don't feel like you know what to do. So
right,
maybe I could just, yeah.
I can't seem to hold on to a job.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not from my fault. And I can't get out of poverty.
Mm.
So I don't know.
Well, I'll just speak a little bit to what occurs to me. This might take us to the Grand Cross or not. Talking about a lot of Venus, Saturn stuff today. So, and the ruler of your North Node in Libra, in the 11th house, which speaks to the energy of inclusion, belonging, intimacy, relationship. I can be myself and accepted for it. And we have Venus ruling that, conjunct Saturn in Sag in the 1st house. You have a whole stellium of Sag in the 1st house. And where's your Jupiter? Your Jupiter's up there ruling all of that Sag in the 12th house. And that brings us to that Grand Cross that you asked us about. So there we go. Let me just tune into this. I don't have instruction, but the basic of it, and I would want to, with everyone, you and everyone that I've spoken to, really, when it comes to these more delicate places of vulnerability, like what you're speaking of, what Erika was speaking of, I would truly want to hold more space and feel you more and connect more with the energy of it. So just in general, there is a clear theme here around you trusting your own intuition. And where there's been a suppression around that is exactly where there's a sense of struggle in your own life. So that the blocking of your own intuition is you're incredibly tuned in. You're all that 12th house relative to all that Sag in the 1st house is a soul that is deeply intuitively connected to spirit. And Jupiter, Neptune, Moon, you live in a place where there is deeper attunement and awareness of a larger isness than just the reality that we're seeing right here. For you to actually trust that and own that and claim that means you coming out of the closet. And then Uranus in the 9th, will I be believed? Will I be accepted? Will people believe me? Do I belong? Is my own intuition, is my wisdom something that has any credence in this world? Trining that sun in the 1st. You have a strong intuition, but you have to be willing to trust yourself. So coming back to that Venus, Saturn, love yourself, value yourself, honor yourself, respect yourself. Saturn, anything, Capricorn, anything. The mind gets so focused on the structural reality of our position in life, our relationships, or our money. And it's like trying to move beyond that. But the core, the underneath truth for all of that is, what is your relationship to yourself in this present moment? Do you trust yourself? How do you live in your body? So I would just want to encourage exploration around this sense of freedom, wildness, and really getting in touch with your wild animal spirit. ninth house, first house, and where there might be judgment or repression or shame around your own inherent instinctive nature, physical, sensual nature, intuitive nature, opening that up brings you into a place of landing and belonging and fitting in that no other efforts could actually achieve. Does that make sense for you, Karen?
Yes, but in reality, I have a difficult time wondering, exactly how would I do that. Recently I had these perceptions about a person who passed away, and everybody else thinks of him as a saint, but my experience was very different. And so when I trust my experience and my intuition, lots of times it is so far different than the people around me or what they're seeing. So that's why it's difficult, I think, for me to trust my intuition.
Linda, bring it back to Karen's chart, please.
Excuse me?
Nothing. Keep on going, please. I was just telling Linda something. So yeah, I heard what you just said. Let me just tune into that. I don't want to rush this, so I want to just tune into this for a moment. And that experience of having a perception, seeing something that other people don't see, and feeling like your truth doesn't belong. It won't be understood. It will be rejected. It doesn't fit in.
Right.
That's very much a big part of these signatures, that Uranus in the ninth, squaring your Jupiter, also trining your Sag, and that Jupiter ruling all that Sag. It's you have your truth, you have your intuition. I'll give this to you to work with. Hopefully this is helpful. When you don't believe that you're allowed to be you, that the truth of you is good enough, that you can live in it, act on it, walk on it, then you become sensitized to where your knowing is different than the environment. The truth is, however, when you know who you are and you're living it, expressing it, acting it in your own life, you don't care if you see what other people don't see. There's nothing to prove. What this is all pointing you back to is you're needing to validate and claim a big part of yourself. It means speaking the truth, living the truth, being honest. One of the biggest issues with Saturn in the ninth house is being honest with oneself. Are you lying to yourself about the life that you're telling yourself you have to live? And if you are, that will create more situations where you're like, well, I can't be myself here. It's different. People won't believe me. This is all reflecting back the immensity of energy that's wanting to be actualized. So whether or not you take up issue with this particular situation, I don't know if you need to, and I don't know the situation, if there's something that needs to be communicated to some people. The quality of all this energy is speak your truth, live your truth, start studying and exploring the energy of truth-telling, truth living with no agenda. There's a freedom that happens in Sag where we live our truth, we act authentically, and we're free in just that for its own sake. Living in integrity with yourself, speaking what you feel you need to, and feeling free just in that, not because there's a result that's going to happen or because people will believe you, but because the truth itself makes you free. There's something there for you to explore, I would offer, in really letting the truth permeate your choices and really seeing where that lands. Does that feel helpful, Karen?
That makes sense, yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay,
right.
Let's go on to Peter's chart.
Okay.
Great.
Hi.
Peter,
Hi.
go ahead.
Good
Hi,
evening,
Peter.
Ari. Hi. So, yeah, I had a change of profession really taking place from my Chiron return 3 years ago. I've moved from design illustration into healing work, mainly with Reiki and particularly with kinesiology. And where I am at the moment, and you can see where my nodes are, I'm about to move in March. Pluto is fully on my south node. And there's a lot of, I can feel that there's a lot of activity, in this sort of period of huge change. I feel that I've been struggling with a skip step with Jupiter, which has been squaring my nodes. I've just come out of a really heavy 12th house transit. Saturn's just literally came out of my 12th house on the 19th of December.
Welcome.
I mean, in the last 6 months, we were evicted. I'm no longer able to live with my son. I'm working to rebuild my business, which collapsed last year. And at the same time, I've got this really beautiful vision, my blueprint of how the healing work is coming together. It's coming in with horses. There's beautiful collaboration and stuff. And at the same time, I feel like I've been whipped, and like I've had the ground pulled from under my feet. I'm advancing, but it's been, really complicated. I've done everything that I wanted to do, but I have not been given, I've just barely had the means to be able to do it. And it's been incredibly bizarre because I've managed to do the stuff that I really want to do. And at the same time, losing home, money issues, it's like really sailing into the wind. And it's so that's what I want to say. That's where I am. That's what I'm living.
Great. What came to me as you're speaking, it's living without context. That's what's happening right now.
Okay.
So it's where there's this otherwise very familiar sense of putting a box around your life and saying, okay, this is my home. This is how things work. This is what it looks like. And these are the conditions that I need in order to actualize myself in the world. And what's happening right now is there's a stripping away so that you're left with only the truth of you. So you're living, you're surviving, you're being in a body doesn't require a restriction of your own life force, these conditions that make you fit into something that's comfortable and familiar. It's actually this freedom that says, I'm secure in myself. I know my purpose. I'm living it. I trust myself. I'm opening my mouth and speaking. I'm doing my work. And in that space, it's like, oh, I'm living right here, right now. And there's a joy. You don't need to have any more answers. So this is, Jupiter squaring the nodes. Your Saturn is the ruler of your south node. Saturn is an Aquarius in the second house. The transiting south node, as we can see, has been moving over your Saturn. It's been in your second house. Aquarius in the second house, Saturn is about, and it's also retrograde. So it's deconstructing, liberating from home, survival, liberating from crystallized ideas of what it means to be a human being in a human body, surviving, so that what's left is Aquarius, Saturn, the authority of your own soul. Your inherent soul individuality being your reference point. And so what I'm excited for you in this phase is, as Saturn's in your first house, new cycle, and you and like everyone else today, pretty much the next 2 years are going to be one hell of a journey with all this happening towards your south node at 20 degrees. I'm curious for what you will find out. Like, well, what does it look like for me to be alive? What does it look like for me to live here? What's that look like? There's so much in your chart around. You also have all that 9th house planets, Vesta squaring the nodes as well, and the moon in Sagittarius in the 11th. There's just all this Aquarius, Sagittarius stuff going on. And so what I see is like the freedom to live as yourself and the curiosity of that. And then all that you get to give as you're grounding and trusting your own authority in this life and not needing to fit into something that the mind knows. Did that speak to your sharing?
It does. Absolutely. And it gives me lots of courage. It's really nice to hear because it's been a stormy voyage, but I feel like when I look at my, what I call my blueprint, which is like just a few lines on a piece of paper. I mean, I love where it's going for me. I just love it. And there are such exciting things, the healing work, working with the horses. It's just so beautiful. And
I love that you work with horses. Yeah.
I just, I'm working with horses tomorrow morning. And it's just so cool. It's lovely. And this is so totally not what I ever expected to be doing. But when I'm there, I'm just like right in my boots, and I just adore it. You know,
beautiful.
so that's I don't quite know how I've got here, but it's like a crazy time. But I'm learning to love it and just accept it for what it is, and go with it and do the work that I seem to be called to do.
Okay, Ari Moshe, would you like one more question?
Sure.
Okay, Robin.
Thank you, Ari.
Please
Thank
go
you,
ahead.
Pete.
Thanks, Peter.
Hi.
Hey, Robin.
So, Pluto, let's see. Pluto's going to be opposing my Venus, and there's going to be an eclipse on my Venus coming up this summer. I just came through all of that mutable cross stuff affecting everything intensely in my chart, and I've come through that now. So, just wondering what Pluto is going to bring. I've been feeling really held back from expressing my complete potential. I have having trouble just really focusing and moving forward to manifest my truest desires and potential. And also I feel I've lived in Arizona for like since 2000. It's a long time now. I'm not making the connections here with people of like mind. I've felt so cut off from that since I live here. I'm just wondering, I know a lot of it that there's got to be people around, but something in me is keeping me from.
What kind of work do you do, Robin?
Well, I work with autistic children.
Oh, cool.
And so I don't get to meet a lot of people through my work.
And what do you want to do?
I would really like to be doing something creative. And also I like doing things with healing and astrology and tarot and all that.
So let's offer a little piece on this. So yeah, Pluto activating anything in your chart in virtue of moving through your first house is in its essence about action, movement, clearing the space to move forward with your life. And where my attention is drawn is your own Pluto, Sun, Jupiter, stellium in the 8th and 9th house squaring your nodes.
Yeah.
And your south node being in the 6th. Like the main thing that comes up for me is you want to be teaching and healing. There's more sharing of truth. North node, Sag in the 12th, with Jupiter up there, you're a servant of the truth. Mm-hmm. You're here to be in service and to bring forth wisdom, to be in guidance of others. There's a teacher in there that's wanting to further actualize. Virgo can very much be being bound by something that is degrading or kind of keeping you in a place where you're not doing the work that is really of greatest value to you. And so the biggest thing that I would point you to are beliefs, Jupiter, that say, I'm not ready. It's not time. I'm not allowed to. Basically ways in which you convince yourself that you shouldn't be who you are, that what you are isn't acceptable. One of the biggest issues with Virgo is holding ourselves back. Like it's a huge thing with Virgo, 6th house. Like we'll just find all kinds of reasons to say, nope, not ready. So that's what comes to me with all this energy moving towards your Venus. Venus squares your Neptune in the 10th house. There's definitely a piece around self-value, self-love, and letting yourself deserve, letting yourself receive. One of the teachings of Neptune in the 10th house, it's opposite your series as well, is there's no world that you agree to live in. Like you didn't sign a contract that said you have to be this. This is defining the relevance of your existence in this life. Especially with such a strong Pluto, I think a lot of this is reclaiming your creative energy. You know, the tendency with Jupiter is we want to look outside. Where's the right place? Where do I go? It's that restlessness of Jupiter. And travel comes with it. I'm about to get in my car after this talk and drive for hours. I'm a Jupiter person. Travel comes with the game.
Yeah, I did a lot of that in my younger years.
Yeah. And the essence of this movement, though, is like I'm moving towards and pursuing something that I know is on my horizons, something greater. And so you don't necessarily have to be wandering or traveling or aimlessly, but there's a part of you that's like thinking there must be something more, and that's pointing to you that there's something more. Explore that. So it's neither running away from where you are, right? But there's like, be in that journey. Explore your intuition. Trust it. That's my short little snippet for you.
Thank you.
Sure, you're welcome.
Thank you, Ari Moshe. Thank you, Robin. And Wanda, if you could please click on stop share. We've come right to the end of the meeting. And so we're back to the attendee panel. Any comments for Ari Moshe? Any feedback here?
Big thank you.
Beautiful.
You're welcome.
Ari Moshe, thank you so much. Went really well. Yes, Chuck?
Thank you very much.
It's good to see you again.
You're wonderful, Ari.
You all again. Thank you all.
This was great. Next time we need fewer volunteers.
Fewer volunteers.
No, yeah. I'm sorry. We had like about 15, and it was so hard to turn people away. So.
And I'll have their charts up next time so I can work with them in my way, and that's totally great. Hopefully this was helpful for people. Okay. Much love to you all.
Thank you.
Same.
Bye, everyone.
Thank
you.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you, Linda.
Thanks, Ari.
Thank you, everybody.